lot of power and a lot of strength and a lot of capability to create things, but we also have a lot of capacity to destroy.
I've seen that you've been on like this spiritual journey. What's it like? Trauma. I'm fixed now. I'm worthy. Who the am I, man? Welcome to today's ecstatic dance.
I realized I never wanted to be a PT forever. Counting reps and listening to top 40 music in a commercial gym. I was getting out traveling any chance I could just to get out and see mountains and hiking. And every time I went out there, I'd spend time with tribes and villages and meet people and have these incredible life-changing experiences, near-death experiences. And all that really just made me go, this is what's more important in life.
Is porn a bad thing?
I think so. Porn's been bad for me. It really distorted my perception of sex and intimacy. I think how early I got into it, I wasn't ready for that.
How old were you?
11 years old. Yeah,
11?
Yeah. I got exposed to like porn when I was 11 and it was like intense.
Charles, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Great to be here.
Thank you for coming all the way up from Bondi.
Yeah, man. Welcome to Sydney, Australia, man. It's a beautiful day today.
It is a beautiful day.
Sunny, only for the best people from Perth, eh?
That's it, mate. Turns it on. As soon as I leave, we'll go shit. Mate, I always find anyone who's really gone deep into the healing space, particularly leading people, they always have like a really good origin story of what led them there. Tell me about your story.
Okay, my story. So I feel like what led me to what I'm doing now, there's always been like a deep passion to like help people and be of service to others. And I think the way that I've done that has just like changed over the years. And I think it all really comes from a few different things. Like when I was young, I had to take on the role of being the man of the house at like 8 years old. So there was always like a sense of responsibility and leadership there as a man, in a household with 3 women and my mum. It was an area I grew up in where it was a bit rough and, house had been robbed before and, there's like more prevalence of like violence and, things like that. So it just, I guess, built on more of a concern in my mind to like protect my family. So there was like already a leadership type role that I felt like I had there to like help others and protect others. And I think, a lot of people that get into this sort of work, what may inspire them and motivate them to like help others may come from some place of like pain within like their own experience. And for me, it was like seeing my mum struggling and things like that. So I think that's what like created a sense of like empathy and like caution and protection for others when I was younger. And then there was a few other experiences after that where I just felt like I was a complete loser and unworthy and not good enough, and like the typical sort of belief systems that a lot of people who are struggling with have. So I felt like I had a lot of that.
Where do you reckon that came from?
It came from like me just not excelling at all in like sports or school kind of growing up, feeling like I was the poor one. We were the ones living in housing commission, and comparing myself to like people around that had like nicer clothes and from my perspective like better opportunities and a better head start than me. So from that as well, and growing up in a culture where if there was like your family got a divorce, it was like a pretty big deal, and out of like the extended family that I knew, like we were the only family where there was like a divorce, so things like that. So
it sounds like there's a fair bit of shame.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of shame, and as well like some of it was like perpetuated from like my ethnicity as well. Growing up, Middle Eastern background, like there was like a sense of like watching the news growing up, and when you're young you don't really know how to process it much, and there's like wars in the Middle East and there's like a man in Middle Eastern appearance on every second day on the news, so it's like fuck man, these people that look like me are like the enemy and shit. So that like also creates like this sense of like I don't belong and shit. And like as a young kid like growing up with that, like you're extremely like sensitive and we're so vulnerable, so we kind of take on a lot of these belief systems as a way to protect us, and that's what I did at that time, even though it kind of was very disempowering, so
it's especially around 20 years ago, Yeah, no, that's would have been when you're very much in your formative years, like teenagers, early
Exactly.
20s, that sort of thing.
Exactly, yeah.
So I guess that, when 2001, all that stuff happened.
That's right.
Like being Middle East in the US or,
anywhere in the West, I think.
Anywhere in the West
exactly.
would have been pretty rough. I mean, these days there's so many people from the Middle East, and I think everything's has sometimes gone a bit further the other way.
Exactly.
But like that period, especially there would have been a 10-year period, would have been.
Yeah,
would have been pretty rough.
Yeah, it was, and it was close to home as well. Like there was like Cronulla riots.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that.
Right? Yeah. And I was like pretty young. I was like
get involved?
13 or something. No. I definitely didn't get involved. I was too young back then to have a desire, motivation to get involved. It was more like it's just like this sense of me not feeling good enough and unworthy and all this shit. And there was a few other experiences I had where I got bashed in a street fight once. Me and my mate got jumped. I've spoken about it a few times, and that created a sense of like, how am I going to be able to protect my family if a bunch of guys come and rob my house, and my 3 sisters are going to be there, and you start running worst case scenarios. So like there was a few experiences like that I guess got me to just kind of get out and be like, that's it. Like you got to do something to like improve yourself. And the first thing that got me into self-development was like training, like physically training my body and empowering myself in that way. Then I became a PT, and then PT was like kind of my gateway into helping people. And it's great. Like first start, you're basically like a cheap therapist, and you help people with their mindset and behaviors and things like that. So
relationships,
exactly. There's just so many things that come up, and like when people like have a motivation to change their bodies and change their health and things like that. So that kind of got me deeper into that, and gone through a breakup that really was like a big slap in the face, and had to get me to deal with these emotions that I had no idea how to deal with at the time. And then I started looking more inwards and getting a bit deeper within myself. And I got an injury. I was telling you before, you're a chiro. One of my really good mates, he was a chiro. He was actually studying to be a chiro. He was doing his hours. And because I trusted him so much, like I just knew that he was going to be the guy to heal me with my back pain. I had like a herniated disc, severe sciatic pain down my leg. I was training too hard. Obviously that feeling of not being good enough, like it manifested in me, like trying to be the biggest, strongest guy and deadlifting ridiculous amounts of weight. That was like too much. So he helped me heal, and that kind of got me into like, okay, fuck, there's more to me than just being big and strong, And then I had to like kind of let go of that. And like all these different experiences just kind of led me into like shaping me into getting into what I'm doing today. And then when COVID hit, that's when I kind of said goodbye to my PT business. I realized I never wanted to be a PT forever, like counting reps and listening to top 40 music in a commercial gym fucking downstairs in the city. Like it's a corporate gym. It's not me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was getting out traveling any chance I could just to get out and see mountains and hiking and going to jungles, going to Africa, going this and that, like just to get out of like the city. And every time I went out there, I'd spend time with tribes and villages and meet people and have these incredible life-changing experiences, near-death experiences, and all that really just made me go, fuck, all right, this is what's more important in life. And there's like a spiritual component to it, there's connection, family, nature, all this sort of stuff that I felt like was really missing in this society, like now, that I felt like was missing for me, that I couldn't really connect with and resonate to. And then that kind of got me down a path of more spirituality, because I felt like I needed something like that while I was here. I couldn't just go hike up a 6,000 meter mountain just to find it and like almost die. Like I needed to like do things here that could like help me like connect to that. Then I got into some psychedelics and tried different forms of psychotherapy and healing modalities, you name it, which is why I take the piss out of a lot of them now, because I've fucking been through it. And then I've just created like a few communities now and trying to like create a space for people who want to heal, where they don't really resonate with the complete like rigid Western approach of like, everything has its place, but it's like that methodology it's a bit too dry, it's unrelatable. People struggle to connect to their therapists or the people there that can really support them with their healing. And then the spiritual community, which, there's elements of it that's a bit ridiculous and just like over the top, and people that are, I believe are just sort of chasing nothing and kind of going down these rabbit holes of dissociation and, kind of the boundaries between like the internal external world are just blending together. It's getting real blurry and abstract and shit. So I think it's just like creating like a pathway for people that want to heal, want to become better, want like a like-minded community. They want to go deeper, but they also, you know, want something that they can resonate with and relate to.
Yeah. I think that's what I've got from probably a bit about your content and a bit about just from chatting from you. And it is like, I find everyone's journey you don't just go from where you were to like, you know, where you are now. Like I was very similar that I, you know, became a chiro because I wanted to help people. I like the body, I like sports, wanted to help people. And then you do that for enough years and then you go do that. Then I'm like, oh shit, I actually really like, you start your own business, then you start liking business. And then, you know, I start, you know, marketing and branding. I'm like, shit, I actually really like doing this as well, which you never knew. And then it evolved from that and doing that for years and years and years. And then this thing called like doing content comes up, and then you start doing content that helps your business. I enjoy doing it. It's an outlet for creativity. Then you're like, fuck, just doing chiro and chiro only. And even though you're helping people, it's a bit like your PT sort of stuff. It's great, and I believe people, you know, everyone should train, everyone should get adjusted. Yeah. But I was like, there's more to it than that. And I think it's still just trying to figure out your purpose. And I think it's the overarching thing is, okay, it's going to be something around the space of helping people. It's just like, what does that look like? And you've got to go on your own. Everyone's got to go on their own journey. And mine was, you know, through business and then building things up, and a lot of validation seeking, a lot of, you know, particularly through achievement. For me, it was achievement through having to be successful in business, having to be good with women, like seeking the love from men in my early 20s. You know, and we all, and you know, the more women you're with, like, man.
I hear.
So, and then you just get caught in that perpetual cycle. And look, I think that cycle, if you're in it for a bit and you learn your lessons, you have some fun, whatever. You know what I mean? But it's when you get stuck in that cycle and the partying and then the drugs and then the validation and then there's the people that you hang around, and then you start losing yourself. Like how that spiritual community, they lose themselves, the party scene, and particularly the high achiever party scene, you can really lose yourself as well. So circling back to the spiritual community, do you find a lot of people in that community, they use spirituality as a vehicle, almost even like a smokescreen of avoiding actually doing the work?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know if it's a lot of people in it. Like I don't know the exact sort of amount of people, but I feel like, you know, it probably is happening to a degree without them necessarily realizing it. I think it's a realization that they may have later on, that there's certain elements of their spirituality practice or methodology that is being used as a form of bypassing like some of their issues. So, you know, there's so many different ways that spiritual bypassing can manifest, and it's never necessarily like the spirituality in itself that's doing it. It's rather like a part of them that's like using spirituality and creating some form of an ideology of it to like, as you said, like kind of smokescreen some of their issues. So, for example, there's like a form of dissociation where you can like, it manifests as like different spiritual visions and like ideologies and things like that can form out of that dissociation, where it's a way to like provide relief from like reality, because there's a lot of distress within reality. So we start like connecting a bit more to this abstract, you know, world. So, and that's something that I can totally like understand and I can relate to. I've done that to a degree. I know during COVID, like there was parts of me that were like thinking of these really grandiose, like, oh my God, this is what's happening. The earth is shifting and the time of the tides and equilibrium is going to get restored. And this is the mass awakening, like all this sort of stuff. And who knows, maybe elements of it were true. Maybe elements of it were just complete bullshit that like my mind was making up as a way to just make me feel better during a distressing time when, you know, my business was like suffering and like things were happening in the world that I didn't agree with, like, you know. So it's kind of like anyone that I've worked with that has experienced anything like that, or anyone who can relate to these sort of things, like, I guess my message is, it's not a bad thing that you have those parts of you that do that. it could be disempowering or could be problematic if you're not aware that you're doing it and you're not in relationship with the part of you that is doing it. So it's kind of like now, like I'm aware that I have that part of me that does that, and now when he does it, like if I can catch him anyway, like I might have a laugh about it, I'll take the piss out of him, you know, and I'll think it's funny. I'm like, oh, there's that part of me that wants to fucking dissociate off to a fantasy Narnia land or whatever the fuck it is, you know. So it's like just acknowledging like you got that part of you that wants to do that, like it's there, and just identifying when it might be a bit too much. Same way as, you know, your part that I'm sure many people can relate to, and I can relate to it as well, that wants validation of women and like, you know, high achieving and it's never enough. And, you know, you got that part of you too. We've also got a part of us that dissociates to create a different reality, the same way that people would open up a phone and kind of shut off into some fucking weird reality or a video game or something like that. Like our brain is very intelligent. It literally constructs these things as a way to like help us, but it becomes, like I said, problematic if people aren't aware that they're doing it, and they're doing it in like times when it wouldn't serve them to do that, and rather it would be better for them to go fucking, you know, clean the dishes and sort out their bills and like actually like go make some money and do something with their lives or something. You know?
I think it's like what you said, it's almost about processing and sitting with things, but then integrating and actioning. And there's that, you need that play between the two. And a lot of, I think a lot of people in that community, they probably just get stuck in processing. Processing and just actually, they almost have like a freeze response into actual action. Whereas a lot of people from probably where I particularly was, they don't even do any processing. It's just it's just action. It's just action. So they almost need to stop and get dragged in. That's where I think for me, I got a lot of benefit from that world, and that's where I got introduced to when I saw your content, where I could really like resonate with the different sort of characters in that world. But for me, it was more about, I had to go in a bit deeper initially and do some work with someone that I trusted, which was probably took me, I reckon, about 3 to 4 years of me knowing I needed to do that work until I actually did it. Because the same thing, I had that preconceived notion. I looked at the spiritual community, and fuck, man, because I had no idea about it. And you look at it and go, man, these guys are hugging each other. They're running around. They're like yogis. I don't want to do this shit, man. And I was like, psychologist, not sure if that was for me as well. So I just, you know, and like a lot of guys, what they do, just keep doing what they're doing. Just fucking
bury everything.
Yeah, bury everything. And then for me, that was where, and I didn't have any idea of what shadow work was, and just kept almost those sort of vices, just went like double down for those years until I hit a point and I finally met someone who I thought, oh, he's actually like a masculine healer. I trust him. Someone else did work with him. And started that process. And I was like, fuck, man, why didn't I start this like 10 years earlier? But like your time's your time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And for me, it's funny, though, I might hang a bit of shit on the spiritual community, get stuck in processing, even though there's so much value there. I mean, as you said, like a lot of people who are like hardworking, driven, they have that low self-worth. That's what drives so much of where they come from. And that's where my identity, something I'm still working through, which I understand where it's come from, but it's when things start ramping up, do I drop back into that character of like needing to be successful? Yeah, and really, I'll pick your brain on this one. How do you delineate between someone who's like really just driven, purposeful in their career and they've got a business, versus someone who they're still driven, they're into business, but there's probably a lot of low self-worth and pain that's driving them?
I mean, you're not really going to know unless like both people will reach a point where they'll ask themselves, is what I'm doing serving me or not? Like there's probably a lot of people that are really successful within their business, then it's actually being driven by their pain and or some sort of trauma. But because it's like serving them, like they've never reached a point where they've had to question what it is that they're doing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So like if you're someone who's questioning it, like going, is what I'm doing like serving me or not? And it's still happening, well then that would be like a sign that there could be a part of you that's doing something that's coming from a place of pain that you don't have, that you yourself struggle to create space from, and is quite enmeshed in your identity. And you may struggle to connect with and kind of lead it, rather it's like leading you. So, you know, some people like they've probably experienced some trauma. Maybe they got orphaned when they were young and something happened when they were 5, and, you know, some sort of pain, trauma happened, you know, when they were 7, whatever. And they've completely like forgotten about it. Like the memory has been shut off and scrambled up in their subconscious, and, you know, they're like now 45 or something like that, and they've got a, you know, beautiful family and a successful business, and it's serving them. Like they're not at a point where they're like, there's enough value for them to even like question what it is that they're doing, because it's like working for them. But if it gets to a point where they're continuing to work hard, push hard, and they're not spending time with their kids, and they're pushing themselves too much, putting too much stress on their body, or
behaviors start showing up.
Other things start coming up because of the stress that they're going through, because of how much pressure they're putting on themselves with work, health issues, whatever, and they're unable to give themselves that rest or find give themselves validation without needing to achieve something. Then it's like, okay, let's look into this, and then we can connect the dots and then go into the past, and okay, there's some pain there, trauma there, all right, let's do some healing there and relieve you from it, because it's something that you want to unburden yourself from, because you're at a point in your life where you're ready to like kind of look at it. So
definitely,
you know, it's hard to tell, because like
it's such a,
everyone has like a, you know, wounding or pain or carrying something from the past to a degree. Even if you look at, it may not even be within our own lifetime, but, you know, our ancestors, things that they were carrying that they passed down to us through epigenetics and things. So it's like, you know, we've all been shaped and molded from our past to a degree. It's like, only if right now in your life you can like ask yourself, you know, is my life in alignment with my values, and what's out of alignment? Okay, do I have the courage to look at that? And if I do, then kind of can look into where it's coming from and understand it.
Definitely. And that's like, even just understanding values is a big thing. And I find when you're in accordance with your value, well, firstly you got to figure out what your values are, and actually from a authentic place, not what you think you want them to be, which is a process.
Definitely.
And I think anytime, like for myself, whenever things have not gone the right way, I look back and go, well, are things in alignment with my top values, which is like, you know, freedom, growth, like creativity, leadership, those sorts of things, like variety. Like, and I look back and I go, fuck, when I was making probably like almost the most amount of money I've ever made, it was in this like this room where I had just like myself, and I was just like grinding it out, like high profitability. I was making like a lot of money, no risk. It was literally like one man show. And like for someone like my dad was he's the opposite to me, highly conservative, like security is his big thing. A lot of fear around money, but coming from a place of just looking out,
right? Yeah,
you know, looking out for everything's about like I don't want to see my kids fuck up.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to see them go through pain. So I get that. Whereas I'm like I'll just have a crack. If things fall apart, I back myself to like rebuild things as well. So like I found like during that period, which was also around COVID, as well, because I had a period where I built up this. I started my practice 14 years ago and built things up, and I was pretty reckless back in those days, and then started like this big recovery center, which was probably a bit too big at the time. Things went sideways, lost everything. Then I went bankrupt and then had to start again. And I had got fully, which was like an amazing gift. For me, it was an amazing gift in terms of I got to sort of see, you know, I learned all these lessons all wrapped into one, and I was early 30s then. So I was like well and truly young enough, and I've got the skills to rebuild, and we have. But then I had to rebuild from like being in this little room. Obviously my ego of what I thought before. I thought I was going to have this like the biggest, most amazing practice in Australia, and then you go, oh shit, I'm subleasing out of a bloody physio room again. But then I built things up, and I was like making a lot of money and just working hard. But I was like, fuck, why am I'm just like miserable. I was fucking miserable. I was like, yeah, it's because there's no freedom. Because I was like in this room. There's no, beyond financial growth, I wasn't doing anything to grow beyond that. So there's almost no growth. There's no variety, because I didn't have a team. I didn't have like a creative process I could really incorporate into it. So for me, I look back now and go, oh, that's why. Like there was a couple of ticks I had to go through that period, but now I've got like a bigger team, a lot of autonomy. I can do things differently. I'm fulfilling like variety, creativity. And for me, the challenge is now it's like there's options, which I'm really grateful for. But then it's to go, picking the right options of where to put my energy. And then going deeper and deeper within myself, going, am I doing that from a place of, because I enjoy everything that I'm doing. I feel quite fulfilled by everything. It's just a matter of, for me, is going, am I doing this? Is there some degree of validation that I'm seeking this, or am I doing this from the right place? Which is the continual, your process of that work you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's continued questions that we've got to ask ourselves. Yeah.
In terms of like talk about masculinity, what does healthy masculinity look like for you?
Healthy masculinity. I think integrity is a big part of it, being honest. I think healthy masculinity is like having a healthy relationship with the different parts of yourself as a man and being able to lead all those different parts of you so that they're not destructive towards others, because as men, like, we wield a lot of power and a lot of strength and a lot of capability to create things, but we also have a lot of capacity to destroy as well. So it's also being in a relationship and acknowledging those parts of ourselves and accepting that they are parts of us and not being blind to them, and seeing how they show up in the world and how they may impact others, and taking responsibility for them and doing whatever we have to do to kind of form a good relationship with them and lead them in a way so that they're not hurting and destroying others. I think that's a big part of healthy masculinity, channeling those parts to things that are positive. You do jiu-jitsu, I do boxing. We men, as well as all humans, but men, we have a pretty high capacity for aggression and violence. So it's like being able to connect with that and channel that towards healthy ways. And
I reckon it's important that everyone does some form of martial art, especially guys. Like as you were saying, it was cool to sort of see you touch upon that. I really feel like in terms of channeling aggression.
Yeah, for sure. And as you were talking about before about business, like, it started with you wanting to crack some backs, and me, it's like, help people lose weight or whatever. But, business is like one of the most spiritual things you can do, because how many parts of you get to meet. Like, you meet your entrepreneurial part, your creative part, the visionary part, like there's so many like aspects of yourself that you have to connect with and integrate in your life. And like martial arts and like channeling your aggression is just another like pathway for you to integrate that part of you, which we all have, because it's literally hardwired in our nervous system to have a fight response. And if you don't meet that fight response and kind of know and get to know it and like learn how to connect with it and channel it and kind of lead it in a way, well then it's either just going to be repressed in your body and manifest in all sorts of health issues, because anger has a huge discharge and it's a lot of energy. And if we're just sort of suppressing it all the time, well, it takes up a lot of energy holding all that energy in our body, or it just sort of outbursts into like a rage and is very destructive towards people around us and affects our loved ones, and people probably don't want to be around us as much and don't feel safe around us. So it's just like another like area of our lives that like opens up this like portal for us to like connect with different parts of us and integrate that. So yeah, definitely recommend it. Go punch some people in the faces in a consensual space. It's consensual.
Is it
punching.
okay if I crack you?
Yes, I accept that.
Yeah, I heard yes.
It's a lot of fun.
This is healing. Yeah. In terms of like escapism, like it comes in so many different ways, from classically toxic bad ways to like more subtle sort of ways, obviously like phone use, food, escape, all that sort of stuff. So how do you find escapism differs for men and women? How it shows up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I haven't really looked into like the statistics of like exactly what the behavior is, but from my own experience, I guess it really depends on like the culture as well. That's a big part of it. But I think overall there tends to be like a theme, like with my experience, that I've overall worked with more women than men.
Really?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I mean, 80% of my followers on social media are women. So I think, I don't know if it's because I grew up in a house with women. I was the only man in the house for women. There must be maybe some safety they feel with me. I'm not too sure. So, you know, I think what I've noticed with women and men, some kind of, I don't know if I've really noticed any real differences. I mean, all humans, we're just all have the pretty much the same, like, you know, the same capacity to like escape in same sort of ways. I mean, maybe like, you know what, actually now that I think about it.
Do you feel like men, for example, might be more geared towards heavily going into sex, alcohol, gaming, potentially drug use? Yeah. Women, maybe other vehicles?
I mean, I've definitely come across it with a lot of men. I mean, I can relate to the sex and the gaming. That's something I personally like use to escape.
Is porn a bad thing?
I think so. Yeah, porn's been bad for me. The reason why it was bad for me was porn, like, it really distorted like my perception of sex and intimacy. And maybe sexual energy just has the ability to have so much variety. Maybe that's just like its nature. But I think how early I got into it, I wasn't ready for that.
How old were you?
11 years old. Yeah.
11?
Yeah. I got exposed to like porn when I was 11, and it wasn't just like titties. Like it was like
proper.
It was like intense, like stuff that you watch when you've probably been watching porn for like a few years, and you've kind of going down different rabbit holes into specific genres. And so for me, it's strange because as a young boy, like, you know, you start getting erections, and then you're getting erections. It's like an autonomic response in your body. You get erections watching this content, and it's like really shifting like your perception on sex. And that's exactly what it did for me. And because of that, like conditioning that it had on me and how it trained me to like get aroused over certain type of content. And then over time, just like any sort of drug or anything, you know, you got to snort more cocaine, you got to, you know, make more money or whatever it is. For me, you just got to keep watching more porn, or you got to watch
baseline changes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. It's just, and as a like a teenager at that time, as it was kind of growing, it's really confusing because it's not just like, oh, I'm now drinking, you know, 5 cups of coffee instead of 3 cups of coffee. Like, it's like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, am I into this stuff? Like, is this me? Is there something wrong with me? Like, so it really creates these like questions for me anyway that I had on my, you know, my sexuality and all this shit, man. It was, yeah, it was, and that actually like affected, like I was getting like erectile dysfunction, like when I was in my late teenage years and early 20s. These are years when you're already kind of like nervous enough about sex, and then because of like what the conditioning of porn, what it did to me, it sort of, you know, created more of, you know, like less, like mentally I'm like, oh, it's a beautiful woman, but it's like my body just wasn't, like my body was just like numb, you know? So that's something that really created like a lot of sense of shame and unworthiness for me that I carried for fucking years. And it took me a lot of healing to like heal from porn. And it still is something that I got to kind of work on. Even now, if I have a really stressful week or something, like, you know, I notice those parts of me that want to just go and watch and disconnect off. And I've had to like sort of have a bit more of a easygoing relationship with porn and not be like, so fucking, oh no, I can't watch it once, otherwise it's going to change the neurochemistry in my brain, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's kind of like it's okay, like it's not the fucking end of the world, you just watch the video, it's all right. Like I've had to like have those periods of it with
it's like a dose dependent.
Exactly, yeah. So, you know, porn for me wasn't a very good thing. It didn't have a very good impact, but hey, you know, we had some memories together and it was there for me at a time when I didn't have anything else. And thanks, Pornhub. So fucking long, mate.
Those years of free service.
Well, it's not free because you pay like you fucking pay your soul in. I don't know what it is, man. It's
as a minimum pay. Like a lot of attention, and it just reframes how you look at everything.
Yeah,
it's so funny. Like so many guys, the space of just sex is just such a vehicle of a lot of underlying pain. And for me, it was like I always viewed porn as, because I never got to the level where I was definitely watching porn a lot, eating the meat, lots of sex. Like sex was just a big thing in my, like a big story for the last. For years and years and years and years, it was all about, and I just thought I was just hypersexual.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Whereas obviously I now know there was a lot of other underlying things, so I had to like go the other way. But I think with porn, it's one of those things, as you said, it's definitely don't demonize it, but there's an age where people start. If you start like high neurodevelopmental years, like 10, 11, 12, which these kids are now. And that just reframes your whole identity. And who you are and how you view things before you actually, there's that. And then there's the fact that, baseline changes, how crazy the shit you get into is. And then when you start connecting with a woman, like you can't replicate, or if you can replicate it, you're just seeking that.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is, I mean, I've had, times in my life I've had some pretty fucking wild shit, which was like shit that I was watching in porn. And actually got to do it.
I did the same thing.
Years and years of doing it.
I would go and see escorts to replicate the specific experiences that I watched in porn because I was too embarrassed to like ask like just regular sexual partners. Like I would go just to get that specific experience, pay for it. It's done. Like, so I totally get that, bro. It was definitely something that, a path that, I went down as well. And it was fucking hard, man. It was really hard. Like,
especially when you have accessibility to it.
Yeah, it's just everywhere,
And the porn's part of it, but even if women are a big vice, and for a lot of guys, from both of us, like in our past, it was a big thing. If you actually do have the capacity that you can be with a lot of women as well, that further just makes that process, because it is so fun, so enjoyable. It gives you that deeper validation that you at the time you don't even know that's what it's doing. You just think, fuck, I'm just having a good time.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there's like a creeping voice there. It's like, you're doing it, but you're still doing it. And then I'm like, I'm still doing it. I don't know I'm doing it. Why the fuck am I still doing it? And then it like creates a fucking another mental battle within yourself. It's like, that's a lovely aspect of not being ignorant and being aware of these sort of things. It's like, fuck, I'm aware that I'm doing a disempowering behavior. Why?
I wasn't a piece of shit.
I was hanging out with some boys last night. It's really good lads. They're all into this sort of work, and it's fucking hilarious. There was a couple of them that were a bit younger, and they're sort of in their early stages of their journey, and we're talking about like, they were kind of talking about, but like I'm repeating a pattern, but I know about the pattern. Why am I still doing it? And we just basically like reenacted a scene of just like, look, man, like we used porn as the example. It's like, look, bro, you can have worked through your porn stuff and done that, and then all of a sudden one day you're on your phone fucking having a wank, and you're fucking in your head you're watching it going, I'm fucking watching it, I know I'm doing it, why the fuck am I still doing it? And it's just like, it's just gonna be like that sometimes, like, because it just is like, and that's another layer of it, of the being ashamed that I should know better because I'm fucking enlightened. It's like, bro, you're still a fucking human. Like, you're a fucking ape, and there's these things, these videos that fucking make you a bit excited on your phone, and when you're having a stressful day,
of course,
it's pretty easy for you to just jump on it and do it, and it's all right, it's not the end of the world. Just kind of move forward and manage the stress and go.
So much of it's just when when your nervous system's just fucking jacked, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where, whenever I feel those particular sexual urges, it's normally just when you just got so much on and you're jacked up. And for me, a big thing, because I'm very prone to addictive like behaviors. I'm very dopaminergic seeking by nature. So I've got to really, which has served me in many ways, but then has hurt me in other ways as well. Like most things. So for me, a big thing is, and it's hard because within my nature is to start to try and slow down, because I've got this inner inner wiring for my child as well. If I'm not doing something, like I'm a lazy fuck and I'm a piece of shit. Yeah, if I'm not being productive.
Totally get it.
So like, then I've got the whole, if I engage in that sort of behavior, there's shame.
Yeah.
If I'm not doing anything, there's shame.
Yeah. And then you're doing something and you get stressed out and you use sex, then there's shame. You know what I mean? So no matter where you fucking go, mate, there's just shame.
All roads lead to shame.
Leads to fucking shame. It's fucked. What was I going to say? But the thing with sex, like sex in its essence is very healing. So it makes sense how you're stressed and you're fucking, you want to have sex. Like it's even like, sex is a very healing experience. I'm like being in a relationship, like you had a fight, like it's a bit stressful. There's some things that words just don't communicate. There's some things that sex communicates and resolves. And then after that, it's just done. And there's like peace and clarity and like, that's all we had to do. So it's just like, I feel like, it's kind of like anything else that in its essence isn't necessarily a bad thing, but then, we obviously have these parts of us that are fucking extreme and they're just fucking go balls to the wall into it and go too fucking far. And next minute they're watching some video going, what the fuck am I watching?
You're talking directly to me.
I may be talking directly to myself as well, man. I'm staring at a mirror of myself. That's fucked. Why did you have to invite me on a podcast? All this shit's coming out.
You don't need to go to the jungle, mate. This is the jungle. In terms of, I guess, where a lot of this leads to is shadow work. So tell me about shadow work.
Yeah, shadow work, that whole thing. All right. Shadow work, it's just like, it's that energy within ourselves that's there. It's always there, and it's like the underpinnings, it's the underlying kind of components that manifest like this experience that we're having right now on the surface, like all these different parts of us that we're not aware of. It's like we're the CEO, like up in the office, like kind of looking out of the window. Yay, what a beautiful day today. But then like in all the other floors and levels and offices, there's all these workers doing this and like fucking making calls and doing this. And some of them are struggling. Some of them are fighting each other. And, it's a bit chaos, but it's organized and it's all kind of got their roles and they're all doing their different things. And majority of that we're just not aware of. And it's okay that we're not aware of it because it's just like the autopilot functioning of this experience that really allows us to just be taken by life and just to experience life as if we're in like a simulation where we don't have to consciously make every single choice. Like a lot of it's already been dictated. It's like our destiny to a degree. So the shadow is like largely responsible for that. Now, the thing is though that within the shadow, there could be parts of us that are like performing jobs and roles there that aren't serving the whole system. They're not supporting the company. They may be like, supporting it to like gradually reach a fucking crash, where the CEO's like, oh shit, what happened to the business? So shadow work is like you're kind of walking through the offices, you're going through, it's a bit of a labyrinth in there. You're meeting all these different parts of you, you're connecting with them, you're getting to understand like their roles, their origins, where they're located in your body, because these parts of us also, there's like a somatic component to the experience. They may, this energy may be lodged in certain areas of our body and in our tissues. So you're kind of locating the somatic component, the feeling of these different parts. You're understanding what their intentions are, what they're trying to do, how they feel about doing what they're doing, how old are they? They could be quite young, childlike versions of us, kind of frozen and stuck in time and kind of continuing like a loop that's like, originated from like a past experience. And it's essentially just like meeting these parts, and none of these parts are bad. A lot of these parts are doing great jobs. Like you might be walking through these offices and like, oh, hey, Sally, yeah, it's Susan from marketing. And like, they're all doing their thing and everything's working good. But then you might have Bill over there and Bill, Bill in accounting. He's just fucking being a bit of a cunt, he's there. I don't know what he's fucking doing. But you might go up to Bill and then start opening up a bit of a dialogue with him and connecting with him and building trust with Bill and being a leader for Bill and not trying to order or push him and suppress him and fire him because, that shadow work doesn't work that way. It's like within the whole collective, like, you know, one company might fire someone and they go, but then it's like the responsibility of the rest of the greater collective system that then has to take that person that got fired and get him a job somewhere else. So it's like, we can't just delete these parts of us and they're gone. Like, we have to like unburden them from their roles and then give them something that they would rather be doing, because a lot of them are probably exhausted doing what they're doing and they don't even want to be doing it. They're just doing it because they're like, oh yeah, Charles, you watch porn to feel better about the loneliness that you have because your dad isn't here and you're fucking 11 years old. Okay, I'll do that for you. And then they keep doing and doing and doing and doing. Like, I'm fucking sick of doing this, but they're doing it as a way to like support us in some way. So if we can connect with them and have that realization and kind of understand that they're doing something that they don't even want to be doing, that's not like authentic for them, we can like redirect that energy to be channeled towards something that's like better for them. It's like energy cannot be created or destroyed. So there's energy within our shadow. There's energy within our dissociation, our blocks. There's energy within our hypervigilance. There's energy within the parts of us that are seeking like our addictions. There's an energy to that. And that's why it can be quite exhausting, because it uses up a lot of energy. And a lot of people might have a really negative relationship with their shadow where they observe these experiences and go, why can't you just fucking go away? You know, I want to live this empowering life with confidence, truth, and action. You know, I want to get rid of you and I want this. But what a lot of people don't understand is that they discover that in the energy of those parts, of those blocks, dissociation and stress. It's just that energy is then being used toward that. So you can't just cut it out. If you try and cut it out, you end up just suppressing it and
start pulling it back,
pushing it away and kind of, you know, further away out of the scope of your conscious awareness. So when you meet these parts, it's about unburdening them from that role. That energy can like flow. It's lighter now. And it's like all of a sudden this like creativity and purpose naturally arises, and you're like, I'm going to start a podcast. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to help people. I'm going to create content. I'm going to just say hi to that little old lady down the street a bit more often. Like, the energy is just like organically arises and it's like channeled towards these different areas of our life that's more authentic to us. So shadow work is like going through that journey, that process of just like learning more about yourself and meeting yourself on a much deeper level.
Yeah. And when you're talking like different parts, like I like the analogy, like how there's, you know, marketing or John from accounting. I mean, that's, you know, shame, resentment, anger, sexual desires, all these things. Yeah. And I, for so many years, I had such a, I mean, I wouldn't say, I don't know if you say you have such a strong shadow, but like I repressed so much of my shadow for years. So I still engaged in all that behavior, you know what I mean? But I had so much like shame beyond talking to the boys, you know, about so many things. Cause like part of obviously me being, you know, if you're a doctor, you're supposed to be clean cut,
right?
Cookie
Exactly.
cut, clean cut, you know, get married young, build a family. You're not supposed to have, you know, those desires and then go out and then, you know, you're doing substance abuse, you're engaging all those behaviors and you're doing that for years and years and years. And that's like it's like an alter ego.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then like your Monday, the Saturday morning, I was like this disciplined, organized, fit, just did everything right. You know, that, and then on a Saturday night, the other guy came out.
That's it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then that other guy would come out and he would just run fucking chaos for years. And then Sunday would be the shame, boom. And then back into Monday, organized, discipline, that sort of. And that was just because I never, like I just kept suppressing and pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. Like, you know, so far it wasn't until I started doing healing work that in particular, and now that I do more like yourself, do more, you know, content and stuff, I had to embrace it. Yeah. Because you can't hide it. You got to embrace it. Like
exactly.
If you had sex addiction or substance problems or, you know, if you have whatever, like, you know, you're addicted to stimulants or whatever it is, you just embrace it.
Yeah, that's it. You got to just
power like, and just owning it. Embrace it. People are going to shit all over you.
Yeah.
Who cares?
That's right. Yeah. And I had that a lot as well, you know, being a healer. You know what I mean, bro? Being this fucking spiritual healer looks like Jesus, you know what I mean? I'm going to go, fuck me dead, bro. I'm watching fucking porn. What the fuck am I doing? Yeah, imagine if people were like, oh, I had this fear of like, oh, people are going to know I'm a fraud. And then I'm like, you know what? I am a fucking fraud. Who am I? Like, I'm no one. I'm just some person. Like, I'm not some god or idol or some fucking, like, don't idolize me. I'm like, that's what actually motivated me to just take the piss out of all these people that like portray themselves as this sort of thing. Cause I just came to realize I'm like, I'm not that. I'm in the human experience as well as all of you, just as confused and uncertain of what the fuck is going to happen when I die. And I'm learning and I'm just doing my best and I'm just trying to bring more joy and love to this experience. And that's it, you know what I mean? So I guess it created a bit more of an authentic expression from myself that for me, like that just feels better, but it actually works out better for like what I'm trying to do anyway, because like the energy of authenticity, it's more magnetizing. Like
and it's you.
Exactly, it's just me. You know what I mean?
I
don't have to put on anything, and people sense it, and it's like gives them permission to just be themselves. Like at this retreat I got next weekend, it's fucking hilarious, bro. We got this exercise. I just made it up. Like it's just like, you know, there's no like scientific study behind this exercise. I'm like, that'll be a good self-development exercise. Like everyone in the retreat gets in 2 lines and they face each other, and everyone has to walk through the group one by one, and then the first time you walk through, everyone is just like abusing you. You're a fucking loser. Like it's actually encouraged. Like
you go through
and
the whole of shame.
You walk through and everyone just blasts you with like abuse. You know what I mean? The second time around, everyone blasts you with love. But like what it's to do, it's to like encourage you to be like resilient when people are judging you, and then also to accept love when people are giving you love. So it's like there's a bit of a science behind it. I've done a couple of scientific studies.
A couple of triple blind.
Write a book about it. The walk of shame and its benefits on self-development. Forget about walking on the hot firestones.
There's no science behind that. Mine is legitimate science.
Yeah, mine is I'm the real Messiah.
Tony Robbins is it?
False prophet.
Real Jesus over here.
Yeah, I even look like him. But yeah, so it's just like creating a space for people to like, it's hilarious though. Like when people do it, like certain emotions come up, but it's absolutely hilarious and everyone's just fucking laughing and it's just so funny and it's just so funny. Like I
can visualize
it's hilarious, bro. If I show you photos of like people walking through, everyone's laughing their head off. So it's just beautiful. Like it's just like, yeah, that's what I like doing.
Abusing people.
Yeah.
Piece of shit.
You want to do shadow work? Come over here, you piece of shit.
Your dad was right. You are
It works.
They leave before you give them love. You're like, oh, I totally fucked them up.
I know. I've got plenty of testimonials to back it up. Oh gosh.
Oh man, so funny. That's hilarious. But how have you found as well, like in terms of you've done a lot of content, and also as you said, like in a space that's very, people be like, who the fuck do you think you are to be here, like, or particularly people who knew in your previous role, as you said, when you used to be like PT years ago, and they'll be like, man, you were just doing PT with me 6 years ago, 7 years. What do you think you are now? You think you're some healer. How have you found taking on? Did it bother you at first when you started doing content and then people throwing the smoke at you?
Fucking hell, man! Wow, social media is a fucking.
It's a minefield.
It's an interesting place, man. You just can't take it too seriously, honestly. Like that's the first piece of advice I'd give anyone out there who's kind of thinking about like getting in there and, you know, just sharing your message. And there definitely was that whole like, you know, imposter syndrome. Like, who am I talking about, you know, psychological principles in the universe and all this shit? Like, I don't know anything. But, you know, it just reaches a point where you realize you're going to die one day and it's like, it's all pretty meaningless. And, you know, just, it really is a platform for you to just express yourself and your creative expression. And also, you know, the understanding that when people drop messages on your posts that are, you know, in, you know, they're
not complimentary.
They're not complimentary. It works for the engagement. So, you know, it's just like, all right, yeah, keep it coming. But there was a few posts I did that really did cop a lot of hate, and it was good because it was like a practice. it's just like practice for me to be like, all right, Charles, you just got judged like 1,000 times there. It was actually a post I did during COVID where I was working with a lot of clients at that time, COVID nurses, people that got vaccine injuries, like all across the board, all different scopes. I had all different clients. And there was like a theme of all that division back then. You're getting vaccinated, you're not getting vaccinated, and I was like, fuck, man, a lot of people are actually really struggling with this now, Like it's coming up all the time in my sessions, like people fighting with their family, people not getting invited here, people calling you a sheep, people calling you conspiracy theorists, whatever. So I just made a post that's like, look, I love you whether you get vaccinated or unvaccinated. My dad got vaccinated, my mum didn't get vaccinated. So I love whatever. I don't give a fuck, Just put it up there. And bro, it went viral. It was fucking crazy. And that's when I realized how like polarizing content like works and how it like gets more engagement. But I copped so much shit for that post. You're killing people. And it was like every single judgment I got, I was like, just kind of practice reframing it and not taking it personally. And it set a good foundation for me to be like, all right, Charles, you've said that. What else do you want to fucking say? What else do you want to take the piss out of now? Yeah, it's just like, all right, you've done that. Like, cool, you're fine. All right, what else do you want to fucking talk about? And then it just invited, I call him my inner cunt. It's just a part of me that likes to just like take a jab at certain things and just have a bit of fun with it. Like it's coming from a good place.
Get the grenade. Right in the room, close the door. It's good to see you guys.
But it's not even that bad, like what I'm doing. I honestly don't even like.
It's amazing how like some things, because I'm very much aligned. I mean, you and me would probably feel very similar on a number of topics. We might feel a bit different on others, but regardless, I think it's just opinions.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't get too emotionally charged by things, but yeah, since COVID, it's just created this like division. Either you're with me, cool. If you're with me, we're cool. If you're not, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
And COVID was like the first, like the vaccines were the first thing.
Yes.
Then it's like, then there was like the Andrew Tate era.
Yes.
Then Andrew Tate came out. It's like, what are your thoughts on Tate? And then guys are having like tiptoe around. It was so funny. So many guys are like, most of what he says is good.
Some of it's all right.
So it's almost like this, all call it masculinity or whatever is, then that's just such a controversial topic. And it's just, there's some topics, it's almost, they're just so polarizing that I feel, because as you said, it's having empathy for everyone's got their own bullshit and their own experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Level of awareness or
bullshit. They got their own bullshit. We're the right ones.
We're right.
They got to do healing on their perspective.
So like it's one of these things. It's just, I guess, it's just like, that's your opinion, no worries. But it's very hard for me. I can't have that in my inner fold though.
In your inner what?
Fold.
In
my circle.
Okay,
like
right.
People who are
I get you.
People who are like very close to you. It's very difficult if you have to deal. Well, it's still just more work I have to deal myself to be able to handle just like being in a high dose situation with someone who's very like incredibly reactive.
No, I totally,
Just cut them.
I totally agree. Yeah. That's bullshit.
You're bullshit. I'm right. Remember, there's always one rule. I'm fucking right.
One rule of shadow work is you're always right. Everyone else is the problem. Sarcasm, by the way. For anyone
if you're putting light on my darkness, fuck you. Go back on my light. In terms of just finally, like you were mentioning, talking about retreats. I find, from my experience, the biggest shifts I've had in healing were from two of the retreats I went on. So I went on two retreats that were heavily about, they were interesting. One of them was rough. It was like a 4-day retreat. It was 2 days of like hard physical work, almost like military style boot camp.
It's like a men's sort of thing.
A men's, It was the group was probably 17 men, 3 women.
Right.
So which was nice having the 3 women. It definitely changed the dynamic than if it was just 17 men. And it was like, for me, it was good because their whole premise is do the physical work at the start, break you down, and then they take you into a then the day after that. So that's the first 2 days. So you don't sleep.
Right.
So you just go through for 30 32 hours straight.
Of what, like training and stuff. Yeah, okay.
All these different blocks of exercises, like, you know, stools, carries in teams for 4 hours from like fucking 1 in the morning to 5 in the morning, doing a 2-hour army crawl in the sand and fucking like in the night, and just crazy shit. Doing like one round is like, they probably do like, you know, an hour of work and then you have like half an hour off. And then do like maybe a 2-hour block and then an hour off, then do, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so it's
okay,
about 11 blocks of work. So you're fucked, and all the voices that come up in the head and all your bullshit and all your excuses and all that sort of stuff comes up in spades. And basically after that, the following day after that was where you do ice bath, recovery, journaling, processing, a lot of things. And then we did a mushroom ceremony.
Okay.
After that, which was amazing, which was amazing. And some of those, that was just that type of retreat. And then after the mushroom ceremony, so many things sort of came up. And because I always would have quite a lot of resistance, so for me that was quite good. And then the day after, then you process everything came up to the ceremony, and everyone learned some tools to how to process that, and more importantly, start integrating. So retreats, I find with the right people are amazing. They're almost just, you get that, like so much, like you get the community plus the connection, plus you get the, you know, the healing work. So tell me about your retreat.
Yeah, man, I love my retreat. So we were doing our 4th one this weekend, and it's just like, it was inspired because I would go to these camping weekends with my mates, and we'd just get out in nature and we'd just have an absolute blast. And it would be just like good food, having a dance, a good mixture of like deep chats, going out, like processing things, and having a laugh, just playing as well. You know, doing different things to, like, you know, meditation. It was very basic stuff, you know, just hanging out with mates, but we would do it often, and they were very healing for myself personally. And this, you know, this idea comes up when you're with your mates, like, oh man, what if we made this as a job, man, or we took people on spiritual healing retreats? So me and one of my mates did it. You know, we created one, and yeah, it's just such a incredible weekend away where it's a good mixture of relaxing. So, you know, we're not doing like fucking, you know, crawl in the mud and shit, but, you know, with lots of relaxing type exercises, like really to build like a resource of safety, get people to feel like refreshed, renewed. So, you know, sound healings, qigong, yoga, breath work, things like that. We do men's circles, women's circles as well. So we split up the groups. It's generally a bit of a half with men and women that come. So we split up the groups, do a men's circle, women's circle. We do some like deep shadow workshops where, you know, we're in a group and kind of breaking out into smaller groups, and some will come forward and be guided through like a process with myself or another facilitator. We have like a tribal theme party on the Saturday night, DJs and drums. So getting people just dancing.
You would absolutely kill it.
Yeah, I love it, man. Yeah, it's just good dancing, moving the body. You know, we do the ice baths and stuff as well. It's just like it's just a weekend where it gives people the opportunity to just like process anything they've been holding on to, any stress, to have like an incredible amount of laughs. Like it's just hilarious. You know, a lot of people come because they watch my funny content. So you get a lot of those people that like, they got great senses of humor. You know, what can I say? They find my shit funny. And then, but we're also an element of really good, deep quality shadow work that's not like too much of the airy fairy stuff. Like, you know, for example, someone told me the other day she wanted to do shadow work with me. She was like, you know, she went to a retreat once and their version of shadow work was dancing in front of the mirror and like dancing with your shadow. And I'm like, yeah, that's not the kind of shadow work that we do. You know what I mean? So like actually some like...
That's my morning practice.
Heal your traumas.
Face what? I'm a piece of shit. Go back to dancing.
It's part of the dance moves. So yeah, man, me and my business partner, we started it, and he's a guy that I grew up with since I was like 15. Grew up in the area, Western Sydney, and you know, both grew up, you know, rough sort of upbringings, and now we're doing this shit, man. We love it, bro. Awesome. So yeah, this weekend, I don't know how many people we got confirmed so far. It's like 40 to 50, so it's going to be like good amount. Yeah, it'll be a good weekend.
How often are you running them?
Twice a year.
Twice a year?
Yeah, so we do a winter one and a summer one.
Cool. Awesome. And they're always based in Sydney?
Always based in Sydney, but the plan is that we want to go and go to fucking Bali and Thailand. I don't know. Go to Africa one day, man. I don't know. I want to do them everywhere. Yeah, maybe Tulum. I don't know.
So.
They're a bit cooked over there.
All right, brother. Well, man, it's been a pleasure. It's been awesome having some chats and good to finally meet.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you for having me on, man. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure. Good luck for the retreat.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.